Howdy bubs and welcome back. In this video we're going to be covering how to add in a score system. Starting off, we're going to create a new object. This one will be obj game manager. We're going to attach multiple game related components into this in the next couple of videos, but starting off, my first thing is just going to be our score. So in here we're going to add in a create event. And so this will just be initializing all our values. And so we're going to have a couple of things we're going to keep track of. There's our current score, what the player has currently scored, current underscore score. It of course starts at 0. And then we're going to have a high score. Because what's the point of trying to play and get your highest score possible if it's not going to be recorded? Here we're going to try to keep track of that. So current score, initial to 0. High score is going to be the highest score we've ever recorded. But for us to check that, we're going to have to eventually save a score somewhere. So we're going to open a file, any._open, and this will be our data.any. It's just the initialization file. And then with our high score, we're going to then read the initialization file in data, and we're going to look for the field called high score. If there's nothing there, it doesn't exist, and we're just going to set it to 0. And then I'm going to close that file. Also, if that file doesn't exist, again, it's just going to default to the value of 0. So the first time you run the program, it should create a data.any file and then give it a default value of 0 since no high score exists at all. After that, assuming that you've played and scored more than 0, we should have a new high score being tracked within the game. Now, another thing to keep in mind is figuring out where you want your scores to appear. I personally prefer everything near the center. Now I just want to make a couple of variables that we're going to reference later on. The center Y values or something common. I want to have my stuff centered in the room, so I'm just going to be using that. You of course can use different values based off of what you want. Maybe you want your information on the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. You'll figure out the appropriate values for you. But I'm going to use center X, and it's just going to be GUI underscore, or no, display underscore GUI get width. Get GUI width divided by 2. That's the center. Center Y is going to be getting our height. So now I have my center X and I have my center Y values. And now we should be good at this current view. Our current score for the player starts at 0. We check to see what the high score is, if there is one. Again, this is at the create event. And then I keep track of where the center of the screen is for personal reference. Then I'm going to create a draw event. I'm going to draw on the GUI. The GUI keeps track based off of the center of your view that you can see. Draw is in respect to the room, so drawing for the GUI is better in our case. So draw scores. So here I'm going to draw both our score and high score so we can keep track of both. So we have to do a little bit of setup before we're able to actually draw our text. So first off, I need to specify draw set font. I'm going to right click, create a new font, and so FNT score, and I'm just going to scroll. There's tons of different options you can look through and see what is the most interesting font for you to use. I'm simply going to scroll, stop, and select, okay, this looks good, and I'm going to raise it to like 30. There we go. I'm satisfied. I can close this out. Now I can move on up and specify I'm going to use my font score. Now we have a specified font. Next we need to specify our horizontal and vertical alignment. So I can do draw underscore set horizontal alignment, and so this is referencing whenever we tell it where to draw the text, whether it draws the text using that position as its left, its center, or its rightmost side. So I want it to be centered where I tell it to be. So I'm going to do font alignment center. Same thing with draw set line for vertical alignment. In this case, I'm going to specify font alignment middle. This will be either top, middle, or bottom. I specify middle for the vertical alignment. You can also do draw underscore set font, draw underscore color and specify color. And I can say I want my text to be white. Now that we have that set up, again, this portion is just set up for drawing stuff. Now we can actually write the text. I can simply specify draw text, and where do I want this? Well, conveniently in the last step, conveniently in the create event, I have a center X and a center Y value of where I want to place my position, of where I want to place the text. You, of course, can place this wherever you want. Mine is just going to be smack dab in the middle of the screen just for us starting off. And I want it to tell us the score. So score, colon, white space, close quotation marks, concatenated to the string casting of our current value. Because our current score value is a numeric type. So it's right now an integer. So current score. You cannot add a string to a integer, so we're casting it into a string, so that way we can combine it all together and it'll say score and then whatever the number is. Close parentheses, semicolon, and that'll draw that. Then I also wanted to show the high score, and this will pull the other variable, high score. But I want this slightly lower, so I'm going to have this be, let's say 30 pixels below that. Now that we have that declared, we should be able to go ahead and go into the room, place our game manager inside of here, hit run, and just see the text there. There we go. So in my case, because of the size of my font, 30 pixels might not actually be enough. So I'm going to maybe increase it to 40 or 50 pixels of space between the center of score and then the center of high score. Let me go ahead and fix that. And now that I've demonstrated where it is, I can also reference other values on how we can move things around. So again, the top position of our screen is 0 on the Y value. Moving down, it increases to whatever the pixel size is. I want my text to be centered at the top middle of the screen. So I'm going to put this at, let's say, 30 pixels down, and this will also be 30 pixels down. Now I run this, and there we go. It looks nice. We have the score stated there and the high score immediately below it. But right now nothing's changing. It's just displayed there. To go ahead and start modifying our text, we can move into our enemy. And in the destroy event, this is where we keep track of what happens whenever the enemy gets destroyed. We can now include a reference to the variable current step, to the variable current score over in our game manager. So after we modify our score, after we modify the enemy total, we can also reference obj underscore game manager dot current score, and I'm going to increase it by 1, so plus equals 1. This will mean that every time you kill or destroy an enemy, it'll just be increasing the score by 1. If you want to make it varied based off of the enemy's health or other statistics, and we're going to have to create some type of value system for each of our enemies. And so I'm going to create a new variable called worth. Over in our create event, I want my worth of the enemies to be equal to what their starting HP is. So HP, worth is equal to HP, so it's 2 times whatever the size is. You can of course modify this again. Maybe you wanted to have some of your sprites be worth, maybe you wanted to have some of your enemies be worth more points or less points than others. Your choice on how you wish to put this together. I'm just going to leave it as the worth is equal to their starting HP. Now in our destroy event, it'll be referencing worth, and so whenever we hit run, our score goes up little by little. Now this just keeps track of the current score, but this alone doesn't give us a way to keep track of a high score. Our game technically never ends right now. Just for the sake of keeping track of this, I'm going to go ahead and have a button I can press that will restart or end the game. So over in the game manager, I'm going to create another event, and in this case, whenever I press the enter key, I'm going to restart my game. Restart game. So game underscore restart. This will just restart everything. But right before the game restarts, I want to update our high score if we need to. So we're going to check if the current score is greater than our high score, then I'm going to open up that initialization file, data.ini, and then this time I'm going to write a real number into there, data, and as we had called it before, it's high score. If we go back to our create event, we see we reference high score. Here we're going to create high score or update it, and it's going to write into there our current score. After I've written the current score, I'll go ahead and close the file. And now let's give it a look. The current score increases. I'm going to hit enter. It restarts and our high score now has been updated. We see here my score has increased. I'm going to hit enter. Our high score is updated. If I did not score higher than that, I'm going to hit enter here. The high score does not get updated because it did not go past now 10. So now with that, we have an easy mechanic to not only restart our game, which will be useful in the future once we do more testing, but we have now implemented a score system of some kind. We draw text onto the screen. In my case, I have it at the center top. In your case, you can place it wherever you want. And then I have the high score immediately below that, so we know what we're shooting towards beating. But otherwise, that's more or less everything that you need to know for creating a score and high score system. If you have any questions or need any assistance, just let me know. Otherwise, that's all I've got for now. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support. And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button.